Welcome to the Deep Dive. So you're looking to cut through the noise and get a real handle on what's happening in the global TV, film, and media industries this week, right?
Yeah, there's always so much going on.
Exactly. We've sifted through it, all the headlines, the reports, everything to bring you the insights that genuinely matter.
Think of this as your curated briefing. We're not just like listing news items. We're pulling out the threads, trying to show you the bigger picture, highlighting what you really need to know.
Okay, so this week has seen some, well, fascinating activity. And a theme that keeps popping up is adaptation. Taking well-loved stories and bringing them to the screen.
Absolutely. It's always intriguing to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Peter Kosminski returning to Hilary Mantel's world with Wolf Hall, The Mirror and the Light.
Right.
His recent reflections, especially, coming after Mantel's passing and around the BAFTA TV Craft Awards, they really speak to a profound connection, a sense of duty, almost.
It feels heavier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Adapting someone's final work after they're gone. It's not just about getting the story right.
Exactly. It's about honoring a legacy. It puts a whole different weight on it. Stewardship, like you said before we started recording.
Yeah. Now, switching gears completely, there's the Netflix and Amblin take on Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club.
Oh, this sounds like fun.
Doesn't it? A great premise, witty retirees solving a real-life murder. And the cast.
Wow. Who have they got?
Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, Ben Kingsley, Celia Imrie.
Okay. That's some serious star power.
Right. Attached to what sounds like a really charming, maybe lighter project compared to Wolf Hall.
Well, that's an interesting contrast right there, isn't it? Wolf Hall has that literary weight, historical depth, maybe aims for a more discerning audience. Whereas Thursday Murder Club, with that cast and lighter tone, it feels like it's going for broader appeal, more immediate commercial impact. Shows how adaptations target different segments, different expectations.
And sticking with mystery, but different again. Tom Mead's death in The Conjurer.
Ah, the locked room mystery.
Yes. Set in the 1930s, magician detective. It's been optioned for a UK series.
There definitely seems to be a taste for those classic puzzle mysteries again.
Totally. And the idea of a magician detective, that Holmes-Watson dynamic, but with a magical twist, sounds clever. Especially with a fourth book coming.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's the intellectual puzzle they offer. And adding a magician, well, that plays with deception, illusion, could be really visually interesting on screen.
Then there's Amazon, picking up We Were Liars. The YA novel adaptation train keeps rolling.
It sure does. YA adaptations, they often come with that built-in, really engaged audience, which is a big plus, for initial viewership.
But tricky too, right? Those fans know the books inside out.
Oh, absolutely. High expectations, you deviate too much, and you'll hear about it loudly.
Okay, let's pull back a bit. Look at the bigger picture of storytelling itself. There were some interesting, maybe sobering discussions among BAFTA nominees recently about the challenges facing UK drama.
Yeah, this gives you a peek behind the curtain, doesn't it? Nicole Taylor, who wrote One Day.
Great adaptation, by the way.
Fantastic. She spoke about the financial strain, just how hard it is to make high-quality UK drama work financially.
And Richard Gadd, Baby Reindeer.
Him too. He emphasized how tough it is to get riskier, more unconventional stuff financed.
It's always that tightrope walk, isn't it? Artistic vision versus, well, the bottom line.
But then you look at Baby Reindeer itself. Started as a super personal, definitely risky one-man show at the Edinburgh Fringe.
And now it's this huge, critical, and popular success.
Exactly. It shows that sometimes those risks, those leaps of faith, they pay off big time. Industry was mentioned, too, as another example of bold storytelling finding its audience.
And those successes are really encouraging. They show that, yeah, the money's tight, but there is still space. There is demand for original, boundary-pushing stories. Audiences are maybe more willing than commissioners think to embrace something different.
Okay, let's talk about another kind of adaptation that seems to be hitting its stride. Video games. Ah, yes. The Last of Us Fallout. They've really cracked it lately, haven't they?
It feels like it, after years of, let's be honest, some pretty rough attempts.
What's interesting is how they're succeeding. They're not just trying to replicate gameplay. They focus on the core story, the characters' emotional journeys, the world's atmosphere.
Respecting the source material seems key.
Totally. And smart casting, plus actual collaboration between the game developers and the show creators, that partnership seems crucial.
It really makes you wonder what's next. People keep mentioning Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, that seems like a natural fit. Rich world, compelling characters. It's almost cinematic already.
What about something like The Sims? Could you even adapt that?
Huh. That's a tougher one, isn't it? Being such a sandbox. But it's so huge globally. Maybe. You'd need a really innovative angle. Focus on the players' stories, maybe.
Intriguing. Okay, here's an interesting contrast playing out.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler's upcoming film, Sinners.
Yeah, hearing a lot of buzz about that one.
Pitched against Lucasfilm announcing Star Wars.
Starfighter. Ugh. Original personal storytelling versus the big, established franchise machine.
It feels like a perfect snapshot of that tension in the industry right now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Sinners, rooted in history, Coogler's vision, generating real heat, box office anticipation. Starfighter, well, it's Star Wars. It's nostalgia, it's a known quantity, perceived as safer, maybe.
That push and pull between the desire for something fresh and the lure of familiar IP.
Exactly. It's the central dynamic we see playing out everywhere.
Okay, shifting gears slightly to the business side of things. The Casting Society put out a warning recently.
Oh, yeah, about the audition scams.
People being asked to pay for auditions. A crucial reminder, really.
It really is so important for actors, especially those starting out, to know legitimate casting calls never require payment. You've got to verify things through proper channels.
Definitely. Also in the news, Warner Bros. Won a legal round regarding the new Superman film's release internationally.
Right. The lawsuit from Joe Shuster's estate was dismissed in some places.
But it sounds like the legal wrangling might not be totally done. With these iconic characters, decades of history.
It gets complicated, doesn't it? These IP rights issues, especially for characters created so long ago, they have long tails. It affects how these works are managed, released.
Yeah. And speaking of managing creative works, Sue Hugh, the creator of Pachinko.
Fantastic show.
Incredible. At Kane Series, she made a really strong case for studios to invest long-term in their content libraries. The value of older shows.
Which is ironic given the uncertainty around Pachinko getting a season 3, right?
Exactly. A critically acclaimed show, and its future is unclear. It kind of underscores her point about potential short-sightedness.
Yeah, in this rush for new, sometimes the value of a strong back catalog gets overlooked. But that library is an asset. It caters to evolving tastes over time.
And, sticking with industry trends, there's this ongoing discussion about TV's reluctance to really dive deep into climate-focused content, even around Earth Day.
We've got David Attenborough's Ocean series coming, which is obviously huge and important.
Of course. But the question experts from places like Climate Spring and Picture Zero are asking is that enough? Is the industry as a whole integrating these critical issues into mainstream programming?
It feels like there might be a gap, doesn't it, between public awareness of climate change and the industry's willingness to make it a central theme outside of those big landmark documentaries. How do you weave it into drama, comedy, everything else?
It's a challenge. Okay, let's talk about some unique creative projects that caught our eye. Amalia Ullman's Magic Farm.
Ah, yes. Starred Joe Apollonio, premiered at Sundance, Berlin, now on MUBI.
Sounds intriguing, a satire about ethnocentric themes. Seems designed to provoke.
Definitely feels that way. Ullman-style Apollonio's performance, he mentioned being inspired by River Phoenix, Gus Van Sant, suggests something raw, maybe unsettling, the kind of challenging film festival's champion.
Then there's Benito Skinner's Overcompensating on Prime Video.
The queer comedy, based on his college days, produced by Jonah Hill.
That's the one. And the music sounds like a huge part of it. Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj, plus an original score by Charlie XCX.
Wow, that's quite a soundtrack. Skinner, moving from online comedy to a streaming series, is a big step. Jonah Hill's involvement adds clout, and that music suggests it's going to be funny, but also really tap into that emotional core of finding yourself.
Now, for something completely different, Colossal Biosciences, claiming they're reviving the dire wolf.
Huh. Yeah, that one raised some eyebrows, the whole de-extinction thing.
And the Hollywood connection is Wild Peter Jackson, George R. Martin, the Hemsworths reportedly backing it.
It's this weird intersection of cutting-edge, maybe controversial science and celebrity fascination, isn't it? Blurs the lines. But the big question remains, are these genetically engineered animals really revived dire wolves? And the ethics of it all.
Big questions. On a more grounded but still contentious note, the Until Dawn film adaptation.
The controversy about the writers?
Yeah, the original video game writers apparently aren't getting credit on the film due to some contractual technicality.
Oof. That feels off, especially since the game's success was so tied to its narrative, its writing.
Exactly. It highlights those tricky, sometimes unfair dynamics when adapting between mediums. How are creative contributions valued?
Yeah, that's a recurring issue. Then we have David Cronenberg's The
It
Shrouds.
sounds intensely personal. Evolved from a scrapped Netflix series inspired by losing his wife.
And the concept is pure Cronenberg, isn't it? A
Yeah.
high-tech cemetery where you can watch loved ones decompose.
Whoa. Okay.
Right. Themes of technology, mortality, grief.
Hmm.
It sounds like classic, thought-provoking, unsettling Cronenberg. Deeply intimate, too, given the inspiration.
Okay, maybe something a little lighter. Disney's Stugo.
The animated series set in Florida.
Yeah. Blending sci-fi and nature, mind-reading manatees.
Mind-readed manatees, I love it.
Sounds wonderfully quirky, right?
Yeah.
Aimed at kids, themes of discovery, resilience, tapping into that unique Florida vibe.
Seems like a fun, imaginative project. Then there's NBC's Destination X.
The travel competition with the twist.
Exactly. Contestants on a blacked-out bus trying to figure out where they are. Hosted by Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
That sounds genuinely different for a reality show. More about deduction than just physical stuff.
Yeah, the sensory deprivation, the mystery.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Dean Morgan brings that cool factor. High-stakes guessing game.
We also saw Jack the Ripper, Written in Blood, a docudrama, but focusing specifically on the media's role back in 1888.
Interesting angle, focusing on the Star newspaper's sensationalism.
And how that might have shaped the whole thing, maybe even hindered the investigation. Looking at figures like Frederick Best, the Dear Boss letter, a power of media and narratives.
That's a valuable perspective, how history gets shaped or distorted by the press of the day.
And finally, in this little cluster, the BBC acquired ZDF's Little Red Riding Hood adaptation, done in a Minecraft style.
Ha, okay, that's a modern twist.
Isn't it? Classic fairy tale, reimagined using visuals kids today are totally immersive.
Sure.
Makes you feel fresh.
Shows how adaptable these old stories are, finding new visual languages.
Okay, let's shift focus globally now. Media One scored big deals for their Count of Monte Cristo adaptation.
Premiered at Kineseries, right?
Yep. Heading to PBS, Masterpiece in the US, UKTV in the UK, lots of places in Europe. Classic lit still travels well.
Absolutely. Enduring power. A well-produced take on a story like Monte Cristo has that built-in appeal across borders. Drama, history.
And in Brazil, Globo is launching Latin America's first version of the A-Talks.
The show where neurodivergent individuals interview public figures.
That's it. It's been successful elsewhere, and bringing it to Latin America via Globo seems like a significant step for representation.
Yeah, that format fosters really authentic conversations. Great to see it expanding.
Also seeing format success, Danny J. Italia's Starstruck adaptation is doing well on WBD's Nove channel in Italy.
The format where people impersonate singers.
Yeah, shows how these entertainment formats can be localized effectively and still hit.
That core appeal, ordinary people becoming stars for a night, seems pretty universal, doesn't it?
Seems so. Now, My Otter Diary sounds really special. Should Gandhi get Adhar's documentary?
The long-term one, following an otter family in India.
Yes. Looking at India's changing ecosystem through their lives, it sounds like a really intimate, powerful way to connect big environmental themes to individual stories.
That observational style, over time, it lets you build a real connection. Makes those bigger ecological issues feel personal, relatable.
But EJ's also revisiting Wallander, but with Gustav Skarsgård as a younger Kurt.
Interesting. A modern take, focusing on his earlier struggles.
That's the idea. Rebooting an icon is tricky, but focusing on his formative years could offer a fresh perspective, explore things we haven't seen. Might appeal to old fans and new viewers.
A prequel, essentially. Good work.
And finally, Apple TV Plus greenlit that Metropolis series based on Philip Kerr's Berlin noir novels.
Ah, the Bernie Gunther origin story. Set in 1928 Berlin. This has been talked about for ages.
Right. Good to see it moving forward.
Yeah.
Sounds like perfect historical noir territory.
Yeah.
Tumultuous era, great character.
Definitely one for fans of that genre. Apple TV Plus's involvement suggests a high-quality production, too.
Yeah.
Hopefully they capture that gritty atmosphere.
And lastly, in the global roundup, Dory Media's game show, The Option, is heading to Peru.
The competitive bidding one.
Yep. Just another example of these formats traveling, being adapted for local tastes. The game show trade is huge.
Universal appeal of competition and prizes, I guess.
Okay, wow, that was a lot of projects. Let's quickly touch on some key talent and casting news we didn't weave in earlier. We mentioned Joe Apollonio, Benito Skinner.
And that amazing Thursday Murder Club cast, yeah.
Jon Hamm's back on TV, leading Your Friends and Neighbors. His first big TV role since Mad Men, right?
Yeah, significant. It'll be interesting to see him in that space again, how TV's changed, how he navigates post-Don Draper.
Jesse Plemons is joining the Hunger Games prequel, Sunrise on the Reaping. as Plutarch Heavensbee.
Taking over from Philip Seymour Hoffman, big shoes to fill, but Plemons is fantastic. Speaks to the franchise's continued pull.
Will Ferrell and Zac Efron doing a courtroom comedy for Amazon MGM, Judgment Day.
That pairing sounds fun. Could have great comedic chemistry.
Norman Reedus joining a horror thriller, Pendulum, produced by Darren Aronofsky.
Okay, Reedus plus Aronofsky in horror. That sounds potentially intense and unsettling.
Emma Mackey cast as the White Witch in Greta Gerwig's Narnia.
Huge role. Iconic villain. She worked with Gerwig on Barbie, so that makes sense. Big casting news for that one.
Sydney Sweeney, starring in John M. Chu's adaptation of the game Split Fiction.
More big names jumping into game adaptations shows their growing mainstream status.
Nicholas Duvernay joining the adaptation of Colleen Hoover's Reminders of Him.
Hoover adaptations always have that massive built-in audience.
Tom Hanks doing a Greyhound sequel, shooting in Australia in 2026.
The first one must have done well for Apple TV Plus Say then, shifting to the Pacific Theater this time.
And John Turturro's The Only Living Pickpocket added Giancarlo Esposito, Tatiana Maslany, Steve Buscemi.
Wow, that's a powerhouse ensemble. Seriously good actors.
Just a couple of quick behind-the-scenes notes. Netflix has 3 Body Problem moving production to Hungary for the final seasons.
Interesting logistical move. Probably cost efficiencies, resources, maybe specific locations needed for the story.
Likely a mix. An experienced producer Emma Nyberg joined Nordisk Film in Sweden, while Simon Thomas is overseeing unscripted, including Love Island USA at Pantheon Media Group.
Standard executive shuffles, but they signal strategic focus, Nordisk boosting scripted, Pantheon investing in unscripted.
And finally, just a little insight into craft. Ben Affleck's line dancing scene in The Accountant 2.
Oh yeah, I saw that analysis, how the way he dances reveals his character.
Exactly. That precise, almost mathematical approach, even to something like line dancing,
Yeah.
shows his analytical mind, his internal world, all visually.
It's a great example of nonverbal storytelling, how small details, movement can convey so much about character. Really clever filmmaking.
So, okay, as we wrap up this week's deep dive, it's clear the global TV, film, media world is just constantly churning, isn't it?
Absolutely. Adapting old stories, creating new ones, navigating business challenges, taking creative risks. It's all happening at once.
A whirlwind of activity, which leads us, I think, to a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, considering everything we've talked about, this mix of nostalgia and innovation, big franchises and original ideas, what kind of media do you think will be most impactful, most resonant in the next few years?
Will those truly original voices break through consistently? Or will the comfort of the familiar, the established narratives continue to dominate our screens?
It's that balance, isn't it, between wanting something new and being drawn to what we already know and love. Where do you think the scales will tip? Something to ponder.
Definitely something to ponder. Join us next time for another deep dive into the week's most compelling developments. Until then, keep exploring.